guys, I'm Eileen. Today, I want to share with you the questions you should ask yourself before buying anything. For me, embracing a more intentional lifestyle has changed my life in so many ways. The way I shop now is a lot more sustainable. I feel lighter because there's less clutter. I have more gratitude for the things I own, and my bank account looks healthier. And these are the benefits you could enjoy as well if you just practice a bit of mindfulness. I now ask myself a list of questions every time I feel like buying something, especially for the more expensive items such as designer handbags and fine jewelry. Doing this mental exercise has helped me to cut down a lot on my overall spending and consumption. First of all, you want to ask yourself, will I use it or do I just like it? I'm a very practical person. I love owning beautiful things, but only if they serve a purpose. In fact, I often look at the aspect of cost per wear because for me, the best investment pieces in my wardrobe are simply those I use the most. So if you're considering a purchase, you want to make sure the item will be a good fit for your wardrobe and your life. Don't compromise or say to yourself you will make it work because you shouldn't have to adjust your lifestyle to an object. I tried it before and it didn't work. So I used to have a Cartier love bracelet. I bought it even though I knew I wasn't going to wear it on a daily basis. Really, the right thing to do is to be honest with myself and just admire the bracelet from afar. There are a lot of amazing and beautiful things we'll come across in life, and we certainly don't have to own them all. For example, if you know you have to be hands-free most of the time, you most likely do not need a £3,000 Hermes clutch bag just because it looks good on someone else. With social media especially, we'll see a lot of such items nowadays. So asking yourself this one question will keep you grounded. Moving on to the next question. So let's say you've decided you will use the item. Now the next question to ask yourself is, do I have anything in my collection that looks similar or will serve the same purpose? I feel like this is especially relevant for clothes. If you see a blogger looking very fashionable or chic in a white button-down and a pair of skinny jeans, you quite likely could recreate a similar look just by shopping your own closet. This is a very useful way to avoid excessive repeat items in your wardrobe. Most of us do not need 20 similar leggings or 10 different cosmetic bags. So try to make good use of what you already own rather than mindlessly shopping for more. I feel like this way you will also start to appreciate your collection a lot more. The next question is, will I use this item in 10 years? At first, it might seem like a very impractical question to ask because life is all about changes. So what we like today might not be our favorites anymore next year. So in a way, we can't really look too far ahead. However, I think it's sensible to look at the long-term aspect every time we want to buy something. So I'm in my 30s, and if I want to buy a watch, a pair of shoes, or a sweater, I will ask myself, would I feel comfortable wearing the same item in 10 years' time? My aim is to invest in good quality pieces and keep them for a long time because that way it will cut down on my shopping frequency. To be honest, I feel like consumerism is so widespread nowadays that even luxury shopping is being consumed at a rate like fast fashion. So I really want to encourage slow buying, slow fashion, and slow consumption. I used to have a misconception about luxury shopping. I thought I could just buy anything because if I didn't like it, I could just sell it. Now that really is the very last thing you want to do because you don't want to trap yourself in the vicious cycle of buying and then selling. Now because of the luxury price increases, it is sometimes possible to make a small profit from selling luxury items. But I really don't think it's worth the time and effort. Unless if I come across something I really like, I would much rather keep my cash and have less physical clutters. Moving on, so let's say you've decided the item will serve you for a long time. The next question is a just in case question, which is, will you be happy to sell the item at half price in 2 months' time? It might sound really off-putting, but I think it is a reality check we all need. Designer shoes, for example, depreciate in value really quickly. Even if you've only worn the shoes once, the next buyer will expect a massive discount, otherwise they might as well buy brand new. This actually applies to many things we buy, including TVs, phones, books, furniture, and so on. As soon as these items leave the store, they are no longer brand new and they are not worth that much anymore. Apart from the financial loss, I will also highly recommend you to take into account the time and effort you would have to spend on listing, negotiating, packing, posting, and so on if you do decide to sell the item later on. The next question to ask yourself if you feel like splurging on yourself is, can you wait? I highly recommend everyone to slow down and think about every single purchase. I used to have the fear of missing out, which then led to a lot of impulse purchases. However, I noticed if I walk away from the item for whatever reasons, so let's say if the item wasn't available in my size, many times I would just forget about it after a day or two, and I really wasn't as upset as I thought I would be. So instead of rushing into buying anything, give yourself enough time and sleep on it. If you miss out on something, maybe it's meant to be. Sometimes waiting could also mean you might only buy something if there's a very good sale or if you come across a pre-loved item in a very good condition on the second-hand market. There are several items I don't allow myself to buy at the full retail price. So for example, I mostly buy designer shoes on sales because even classic pieces are heavily discounted during the sale seasons. I also no longer buy Chanel handbags from the store, so I do browse on the pre-loved websites now and again to look for good deals. The next question to ask is, how many hours do I have to work to pay for the item? I've spoken about this before because I really think this is such an important factor to consider. To generate money, it requires time commitment. Whether if you're working a job, running your own business, or trading full-time, we all need to put in the hours. So in a way, we are all using our non-renewable resource to generate money. And when you equate buying a pair of shoes to working 10 hours of your life, you will start to look at shopping very differently. Essentially, for everything you don't buy, those are the hours you don't have to spend working. You could be walking in the park, watching a movie, playing with your children, or you could just take a few days off to relax. This might seem like I'm really anti-shopping, but I'm not. I just think we could all benefit from a bit of intentionality, and asking this one question will give you a lot of clarity. For example, buying a laptop that requires you to work 20 hours might be completely worth it, especially if your career depends on it. Whereas working the same hours to buy a Louis Vuitton phone case might not bring the same value to your life. Now, to be honest, apart from the very essential things, everything else is really a trade-off for our time. And whether if something is worth that trade-off is a very personal question, and only you can make that judgment. Another question I always ask myself when I feel like splurging on shopping is, what is the opportunity cost? Essentially, it means, could the money be used for a better purpose? I feel like this is something we need to consider with every single luxury purchase because first of all, luxury items are discretionary expenses. Secondly, they are also very expensive. So with every designer handbag we buy, that is a very substantial amount of money we could use for something else. For example, a trip to Bali. A few weeks ago, a subscriber got in touch with me and I just want to share her story with you guys because I feel like that is a prime example of how you could use opportunity cost to your good advantage. And hi Emily, if you're watching. So Emily told me she received a bonus this year. At first, she wanted to use that money to buy a Chanel handbag because she wanted to reward herself. But after watching my videos, she decided to use that money for her laser eye surgery. And I think that is fantastic because for me, Emily invested her money on a life-changing procedure. When I look back at all the money I've spent, the best investments are often those I made on myself, my well-being, and my health, such as spending on braces and acne treatment. Again, I'm not suggesting that you should never shop again, but setting priorities is absolutely essential for healthy spending. There you have it. Those are the questions I ask myself every time I feel like shopping. At first, I was doing it mainly for the more expensive items, but now intentionality has just become part of my life. I'm a lot more mindful with everything I consume, whether it is weekly groceries, social media, subscriptions, home decorations, and so on. For me, this is a much simpler but fuller life. Without the unnecessary noise, clutter, and distractions, I feel so much more joy, gratitude, and calmness. More importantly, I know I don't have to rely on shopping for happiness. It's hard to explain, but it has just been a life-changing journey for me, and I really hope more people will join the path of having less. So if you think this video might benefit anyone, certainly share it with them. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Have a nice day.